portion of this video is sponsored by Skillshare. I'm gonna be upfront. This is a very selfish video that I wanted to make here. My main TV at home is about 5 years old. Not old by TV tech, but I'm looking for something new. And I cannot make up my mind if I want to go OLED, I want to go something mini LED, or I want to do a QLED set. So I am beyond excited to take a look at the latest QD-OLED from Sony. This is not a sponsored video. This came just solely out of my interest to seeing a set and seeing if it was right for me. I love TV tech. In fact, yesterday I was walking around Best Buy with my wife showing her different TVs, trying to figure out which one to get and test. And TV tech has changed a ton over the past, I don't know, let's call it 10 years. We first saw HD TV, and if you remember what that looked like, that was a bonkers evolution. And since then, things have changed. We had plasma, LED, mini LED, QLED, and a bunch of other technologies sort of combined to make the modern TV sets. But the jumps in technology have gotten smaller and smaller. Think of it like smartphones. From one generation to the next, it's I don't know, the camera's a little bit better and the processor is 5% faster. That's been the same thing with TVs, but now we're starting to see those big jumps again. Starting to see the issues with OLED get addressed. We're talking brightness, burn-in, and those issues that people have had with the technology. Mini LED is getting bonkers awesome. But behind me, at least on paper, appears to be the pinnacle of OLED right now, in kind of the middle of 2022. So, let's take a look at it, see how it stacks up. So I think the tragedy of making this video is that you will not get to see what I see, and namely that is this set in person. No matter how good you think the picture quality looks on camera, you've got to see it with your eyes to get a sense of the picture quality. Obviously that's true with any TV. So brightness plays a huge part in that story. So OLED sets, I think, are traditionally known for having just incredible deep blacks, since diodes turn all the way off. But traditionally, they ain't been known as the brightest sets on the market, especially when you compare them to something like traditional LEDs, mini LEDs, or even QLED. With this guy, it's kind of combining those technologies. So it is a QD OLED technology, so quantum dot on top of OLED. So theoretically, it can now reach brightness levels to rival some of the brightest sets on the market. I'm just gonna get ahead of it right now. We are definitely gonna do a versus with this set versus the latest mini LED sets too, if you want that comparison. That will be coming. If you've been a fan of OLED, you had your mind set on an OLED set, you've just been waiting for price, some change in tech, you're gonna love this. It single-handedly checks off the biggest problem that most people have had with OLED, and that is brightness. This addresses it, and it looks great. But just how good the picture quality is goes a lot deeper than brightness. And the more I sat and watched this TV, I realized there's a lot more to it. So this is what's called a TriMaster 4K OLED reference monitor. It's a long name. Conveniently, it's also made by Sony. I promise there's a reason I'm telling you this. So these monitors have some of the highest color accuracy in the world. That's why you'll see them on practically every Hollywood set, movie around the world. Directors will sit in what's called a video village. A little pretentious name. So reference monitors are what directors and cinematographers use to check lighting, color, and everything that goes into a scene to make sure it's perfect for the big screen. They can cost upwards of around $25,000. So this guy, this Sony QD-OLED, has better color accuracy than those reference monitors do. At least that's what Sony told us. And as of this filming, costs $4,000 for the 65-inch variation. But obviously TV prices are all over the board and change seemingly every second. So what you're getting as far as color accuracy is concerned is movie level calibration, and that's for everything you are watching. Whether it's streaming, playing a game, whatever, it all gets filtered through Sony's processor and enhanced to look better. And this is a part that I mentioned earlier that I don't think our camera or video will do this picture quality justice. The biggest difference, even bigger than the brightness level, is in the boldness and richness of the colors. The vibrancy of the reds and blues this TV will produce will absolutely never get old. So I think the big question a lot of people have would be, why should I pay more money for a Sony set? What you're getting here is Sony's, I think, incredible processing. I think that's part of that, Sony tax, I guess, as well as what they're doing on the AI side and the dynamic color calibration that's constantly happening is pretty incredible to see. Now, you might not see it unless you sort of have two TVs side by side, but it looks really good. And there's quite a lot of color calibration options and settings for you here if you want to play with it. But I think the biggest compliment that I can give this set, the picture quality is pretty close to a masterpiece, like right out of the box. You could easily put it in vivid if that's what you like, get a bright, vibrant image, which most people I think would probably keep it on majority of the time. But I think the full potential of the set comes from its custom settings. Everything just feels really balanced at every single angle of the set. No matter where you are, no matter what angle you're looking at it, the image quality looks just as good as if you were sitting directly in front in that sweet spot. And I'm bringing that up because LED sets and mini LEDs, as you get to the sides and periphery, that picture tends to get washed out. Advantage of OLED, viewing angles are really good. And this set, like most OLED sets, is also really thin. So mounting it up on a wall gives that kind of uniquely OLED small profile. Honestly, I think I might prefer a tabletop option just for this one in particular. The base that comes with it, which is oddly heavy, I might add, allows you to orient it two different ways. So you can have the feet out in front, which pushes the TV further back, so you can sort of have it sit more flush against the wall. But you actually reverse it too, which is orientation that we've got it in here. So the TV sits flush on your TV console, making it look like it's kind of coming out whatever surface you put it on. To me, it looks really awesome. So on the back of this guy, you've got 4 HDMI ports, 2 capable of 2.1 4K 120 Hertz, and one of those, of course, being eARC, which means if you have a next-gen console, you can play games that run 120 Hertz on the set. I wish it had just one more 4K 120 Hertz port, so that way I could plug in a sound system into eARC and both a PS5 and Xbox Series X without having to switch inputs. And obviously I know Sony, I'm guessing, only wants you to have a PlayStation. But I like my Xbox Game Pass, and I like playing Spider-Man as well. If you have both next-gen consoles, this is just kind of a small thing to keep in mind here. And as you are sitting with perhaps your brand new QD-OLED set, you might want to take advantage of one of my favorite websites out there, Skillshare. At this point, you've probably heard of it. They are the premier resource for learning new things and taking courses and learning to better yourself, better your skills, and learn something new. Now, I think it's easy to say my favorite ones are cinematography and learning how to edit and sort of get lighting dialed in just right. In fact, if that is your jam, there's a course on Skillshare taught by the man himself, none other than Marquez Brownlee, MKBHD, that walks you through the whole process of making a video. Sort of the hard stuff people don't see that goes on behind the cameras. Scripting, lighting, setting up the shot. He does an absolutely incredible job walking you through that. What I've been watching more, maybe this is a little TMI, is gardening and learning how to grow things in my yard because I have the opposite of a green thumb. So if you're looking to learn a new skill like gardening or step up your game like Marquez, you want to learn logo design or anything in between, Skillshare has you covered, and it's taught by someone that knows what they are doing and is an expert in their field. It is an awesome way to better yourself and to learn something new. And the best part, for the first 1,000 people that are like, yeah, John, I can be better at something. I want to be better at something. Skillshare has you covered. They are going to give you a free 1 month to try Skillshare, learn whatever you want, watch as many courses as you want. It is awesome. I hope you guys take advantage of it. All the links, of course, will be in the description. So aside from brightness, I think the big other knock on OLED people have is burn-in. People are terrified of burn. If you watch the same news network, you play the same game on older OLED sets, you used to sort of get that there. Sony has done a lot to mitigate that. There's a setting you can turn on, it's actually on by default, that will actually refresh the screen every few seconds to ensure burn-in doesn't happen, or at least takes a very, very, very long time to happen. You don't notice it actually going on, but something that's happening in the background, so if burn-in was a concern, it wouldn't really be much of an issue, at least for me, with this current generation of sets. So brightness is probably the biggest concern people have with OLED sets. And the thing used to be, if you have a bright room, you probably should not consider an OLED set. And I could talk about nits and 1,000 nits when you're watching HDR content, but really I just wanted to see, especially if I'm going to pick up this set, how it looked in a bright environment. Where my TV is, there's a lot of natural light coming in. So nothing's gonna be brighter than the lights we have here in this studio. And we turned them all on, and then we just watch stuff on the set. But the brightness, where OLED sets used to get washed out with that much light, both natural and artificial, looked plenty bright to my eyes. In fact, if I had sat in front of this, I probably wouldn't even think that I was watching OLED, aside from just being able to see those blacks be so black. I was really impressed. So the big knock, again, from an OLED standpoint, from technology, brightness would not be a concern here. Aside from burn-in, the only other concern to keep in mind is price. And this is definitely not a cheap TV. OLED tends to come with a premium. Sony TVs tend to come with a Sony premium on top of that. So you're paying extra on top of extra for a really expensive set. And whether or not that's going to be worth the cost for you, something only you can answer. So when you're playing games, especially if you're playing with like a PS5, you are getting some really nice features here. So the TV will know that you're playing a game and switch to game mode. So granted, a lot of TVs do that already, nothing we haven't seen before, but with the A95K also has VRR, which helps keeps the picture quality really smooth. And again, a lot of TVs have this, but it's nice to have it here as well. One thing I thought was cool, when you connect a device via HDMI, whether it's PS5 or Apple TV or whatever, you can turn on auto picture mode. And again, you have to have something plug in via HDMI. This will allow the TV to adjust the picture on the screen in real time to give what Sony thinks is the best version of that image on the screen. And a lot of times you'll see this on other TVs, but there's a bit of a lag to when the scene changes, when the picture adjusts. So you'll be watching sort of, and then half a second later, the scene's gonna change, the screen will pop to be either brighter or darker. Previous iterations of technology have been very distracting. From my experience using this TV though, I never saw that adjustment actually happening. It was fast enough that I didn't notice it, which is awesome. So the UI here is Google TV, which I think is one of the better OSs for TVs in my opinion. It's got all the streaming apps you'd expect, support for Apple TV, support for AirPlay, support for screen mirroring, clean interface, all that stuff. Having said that, I'd recommend connecting it to a streaming box, like an Apple TV, or even sort of an external Google TV dongle, because with the HDMI connection, you'll have access to the auto picture mode, which you don't get, kind of oddly, with the built-in apps. If you are gonna use this set, obviously you can use the Google TV UI, it'll be great, but if you wanna take advantage of some of the technology and processing power that it has, you're probably better served plugging something into it. If that something is a PS5, aside from gaming, it'll allow for auto HDR tone mapping, which basically takes any game capable of HDR and adjusts the picture for you, so the game looks its best at all times, essentially similar to watching anything through an HDMI connection. It's a bit convoluted, I know. And again, that auto adjusting picture mode is something that we've seen on a lot of sets before, but it's the first time I've actually seen it working well. I actually would recommend turning it on. So the remote that comes with the TV is also improved from Sony's previous TVs in the past. It's small and it's backlit. Nothing else really special about it, but it's a nice size and it's smaller from previous years. Lastly, is something that you might have noticed in the video already, is a little camera module that attaches to the TV. You do not have to attach it. And as of this filming this video, I don't have access to any of the features it offers anyway. The camera should be, in future firmware updates, be used for things like video calls. So it'll also be used to detect ambient light conditions in the room, which should help inform that auto picture mode even further. And beyond that, it's supposed to detect if there's people in the room at all. So let's say you leave the room for a while, set the TV to auto turn off, doesn't detect anyone else in the room for a period of time. Again, I couldn't test any of that stuff since it wasn't active yet. And to be completely honest, I don't really like the idea of a camera on my TV. So I don't know, you can decide what you want to do there, but if you're concerned about privacy, the slider to cover up the camera, if it's something that you would find useful, it's there for you, I probably wouldn't plug it in. All right, so that's QD-OLED. It's kind of a combination of two really awesome technologies. I'm still not sure if this is gonna be the set for me. In fact, I'm gonna wait until we film our QD-OLED versus mini LED to make that determination. Whether or not I go with this set, whether or not I go with LG's G2, which comes in larger. This is capped at 65 inches. If you need a larger set, bear that in mind. Or a mini LED option from LG. There's a lot of really good TV sets out there. My impression, I came away really impressed with this TV. I came away impressed with brightness. I came away impressed with sort of the burn-in issues being resolved. And I came away stupidly impressed with sort of the auto configuration and the out-of-the-box calibration that this set does. Still not sure if it's worth the price. 4,000 bucks is a lot of money for a 65-inch TV, especially when you consider how close other technologies are getting. Now, I'm not shutting the door on it, and I think that I very well still may end up picking one of these sets up, but I do want to compare it again to the other technologies out there and see if it's worth almost double the price of some of the mini LED tech that's out there. So stay tuned for that video. Hopefully this helps you guys decide if QD-OLED is going to be right for you.